Okay, ankle circumduction is going to be dorsiflexion, inversion, plantar flexion, eversion. Dorsiflexion and plantar flexion, you are thinking of the steel rod in your ankle. Dorsiflexion is coming up, plantar flexion is going down, so it's pivoting on this rod, which would be taking place in the sagittal plane on a frontal axis. For inversion and eversion, this is taking place on the frontal plane, sagittal axis. So it's pivoting on the rod, and I'm not doing a very good job of pivoting it. But that is your ankle circumduction. Thumb circumduction, you start in the anatomical position and you are automatically in thumb extension. From thumb extension, you go into adduction, aide deduction, thumb flexion, thumb abduction, or AB deduction. And that is where you have the puppet. The thumb is completely backwards. You can't use the normal laws that apply to the axis and plane. So your extension and flexion is going to be happening in the frontal plane on a sagittal axis, which is not typical or normal. And then your adduction and abduction is going to be reversed, happening in the sagittal plane on the frontal axis. So just keep a mental note that the thumb is backwards. Wrist circumduction is wrist flexion, ulnar deviation or adduction, AD deduction, extension, radial deviation or abduction or AB deduction. Flexion, ulnar deviation, extension, radial deviation. Index finger is flexion, abduction, extension, adduction. Hip circumduction is hip flexion, abduction, extension, adduction, or you can say flexion, abduction, extension, AD deduction. Trunk circumduction or spine circumduction is flexion, lateral flexion to the right, extension, lateral flexion to the left. Neck circumduction is neck flexion, lateral flexion to the right, neck extension, lateral flexion to the left. Shoulder circumduction, extension, abduction, flexion, adduction. Or you could do it flexion, abduction, extension, adduction. But this is really extension and flexion. This is messy.